Hello, and welcome to this month's bundle, which is based around the farm. Um, it's based around handwriting actually, but with the farm as the central theme. I've created this bundle because over the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of messages and conversations and phone calls with parents whose children are struggling with handwriting. So I thought, well, actually, if this is something that multiple people are struggling with, this would be a sensible place to create a bundle. So in this month's bundle, I just share my screen with you. That wasn't what I wanted. So we have, in this initial page, there's some suggestions on different ideas that we can use to support handwriting. So one of the games we play a lot is noughts and crosses. So what I'll do is I'll draw the noughts and crosses board, but instead of putting a nought or a cross in there, I'll ask you to either pick a letter or pick a word or whatever, and you have to use that as your substitute nought or cross. There was a girl I used to work with a few years ago, and she used to confuse her F's and W's. So we used to use those, for example, as instead of the noughts and crosses. So noughts and crosses is not actually in the bundle, but it's an idea that you can use yourself to help your child. Something else that I often do is we create a word search for each other. So we'll pick a theme. So, for example, in the bundle, there's a list of words associated around my brain is not working today, around the farm. And so you can choose those words, or you could choose words which are of interest to your child. Draw a grid, which is roughly 10 by 10, but you may choose to go smaller if you're working with a younger child or your words are shorter or whatever. And you put your words into the grid, one letter per square, but make sure they go in a straight line. They can go horizontally, vertically, diagonally, etc. That's entirely up to you, but make sure that they always go in a straight line so that otherwise you're just looking for random letters in a grid. Um, Something else that you can do is create letters out of Play-Doh, because by creating them in a more physical, sensory sort of way, it helps you remember the shape and the shape of the letter. But what I would suggest, getting down to the nitty-gritty, is that you start big. It's a bit like using the analogy that when you start to learn to drive, you wouldn't park your car in a very small, at least I presume you wouldn't park your car in a very small gap. You'd start with a big gap, and then as you got more confident, that gap would get smaller, smaller, smaller. And starting to write or perfecting handwriting is similar. You start kind of like big pieces of paper, big arm movements. And then as it gets better, you shrink it down. So you can use things like water with a paintbrush on the patio or the side of the house or something, and it will fade off and it'll be gone. But if there's something that you're really impressed with, you can take a photo of it first before it goes. I used to play hangman quite a bit with a lad, again, using water to create the words. You can write in sand, you can write in gloop, and gloop is literally just baking powder and water mixed, and it's just kind of slimy and horrible, but it's again very sensory and creates an amazing sensory experience, which helps trigger different parts of the brain, making it better to recall the information. A game, I know I chirp on about it a lot, but Jenga is actually really, really good. And it was for handwriting that I actually came across the idea of Jenga, because the actual action of pushing the bricks out and taking them out without the tower falling is really good fine motor skills practice. And it kind of like also helps with the kind of like pincer grip of holding the pen accurately. So Jenga apparently is an amazing skill just in its own to help with handwriting. But what I also do is I write words on each brick. And so you can either do it so you just have to copy that word and it's in your best handwriting along the straight line, or you might do it so that you have to write that word in the sentence. But again, start small, start with kind of like one word, and then maybe build it up into a sentence, and then build it up into a paragraph, rather than kind of like going, hey, right, today we're going to practice your handwriting by writing a story, which is kind of like, whoa, the prospect of going from messy handwriting to a beautiful paragraph is unlikely, whereas you might go from messy handwriting to a really nicely written word. And then you might go from what that really nicely written word to a really cut nice couple of words to a sentence and build up. And then that way you'll find that there's more to praise. And the more you can find to praise, the more that there is to celebrate. And the more you celebrate, oh sorry, I've got a really itchy nose. The more you celebrate, the more confident they feel, because you're kind of like throwing at them all this kind of like praise and celebration. Go, okay, I'm enjoying this, let's have another go, let's do it again. And the more they're feeling confident and willing to have a go, the more practice they get, the more practice they get, the better they become, and it becomes this spiral of positivity. So the next idea I've got is colouring. And again, the trying to keep it inside the lines is brilliant for trying to practice those skills again needed for the strokes of the letters. I've already mentioned Play-Doh, I think, and I've already mentioned clay. But to be honest, anything that helps, and loads of things will help, kind of like sewing and crafts and multiple different things. Pardon me, sorry. Um, and it may be that as they get older, if it's still not improving, you still can't read it, you may then kind of think, okay, we probably need to seek the advice of an occupational therapist. But then it could be that some people will always have handwriting which you'll struggle to read. My youngest, for example, Angel, she says she has to write quickly in order to keep up with her brain, and consequently her handwriting isn't as easy to read. But I hope these ideas make sense. And actually, as I speak, I've put here that I often think of new ideas, which I'll add them as I go along. But another idea is doing mazes, trying to keep the pen inside the line of the maze. And another one is dot to dots. So again, they're really helpful for handwriting skills. And then inside the actual PDF, which I've just popped into the post for you if you're a member of the premium group, hopefully this is going to open. But there is a dotty board game, so that as you does this every time. So as you go around the board, you can be hens, I'll be cows. If anyone lands on a hen, you have to pick one of the words, write it in your very best handwriting. I'd start, like I say, with the words and then build up the sentences as you go along. If anyone lands on a cow, then I would have to do it. If you land on a pig, you roll the dice again, you have to do one of the forfeits. Okay, so there's the dotty board game. There's a normal board game. Again, as you go around the board, each time you land on a word, you have to write it in your very best handwriting, and again, move on to, if you like, sentences as you get more confident. We've got some pictures to colour, some words to trace. And then this one, we've got a cube. So what you do is you cut it out and make it into the cube. You'll need to put tabs on there, so I didn't realise they weren't on there, so that you can actually make it into a physical cube. And then each time you roll the dice, say it lands on a pig, you'd have to write the word pig in your very best handwriting, draw a picture of a pig, and yeah, say it, write it, draw it. So it's a bit like that read, cover, write, check. But instead, you've got the image there, you've got the word there, you just copy it down, you draw your own picture. And having the this will also help with spellings, because having the visual image next to the word will make it easier to recall the spelling as well. There's this one here as an idea. You can always add your own or change it to create your own dice if you want. Like I say, you're going to need to add tabs. So what we'd need to do is, before you cut it out, is do that. So you've got something to stick down. So I didn't realize that wasn't on there. So that's, oh, and then finally we have an image of a farm with different aspects on it, and it's just for you to label. So you can write tractor in there, donkey, pigs, hens, chickens, whatever, farmer, barn, windmill, hay. So yeah. Oh, and there's another one. Silly sentences. Think, yep, this is the last one. This is one of my favorite games. What you do is you cut out these and you put this pile in this set in a pile, this set in a pile, and this set in a pile. And then you muddle the piles up. And then as you put them back together, you'll end up with kind of like silly sentences. So you might end up with the dog, red, in the pond, or the pig watched TV in the field, the cow walked on the fence, and just creates really silly sentences, but it's really good fun. And that way, again, by focusing on short sentences, you're far more likely to get something neat rather than having to focus on trying to copy out or write long scripts. And also because it's funny, it's more appealing rather than writing out kind of like drab information. I hope you enjoy the bundle. I hope you have a really good month. Any questions, as always, please do ask. Have a really good day. Have a great week. Take care. Bye for now.